Welcome to another Goal Intentions. Last week, we had a bit of a nice jam session, if you will, with my longtime friend Carrie Ann from Carry On Friends. Blah, blah, blah. Tongue twister. And I was just so amazed of how many things we have in common, but also her immigration story, which to me, every time someone graces the stage of Goal Intentions and talk about, where they come from in terms of their background, their native language, if they speak a different language or tongue, or their culture, heritage, it just gives me the feels of, while we are from all these different places, representing the diaspora, we manage to have all these traits and similarities and experiences that are very similar. And as we continue and talk about, our journeys and, our experiences in high school, it just warms my heart how everyone seems to come together and really show camaraderie. That love is the most important thing that always seems to amaze me each time I get on here. And today, we're going to continue a little bit with the sweet immigration story because many of my friends, although I was born on St. Croix, I was fortunate to be born as an American, being born in an American territory. But for many of my friends, like my parents and my grandparents and everyone else before, had to go through some sort of struggle or experience in having to obtain residency or citizenship. And I'm always intrigued about hearing my peers when they manage to travel, the world. Because of course we're voyagers. All of our families manage, particularly if you come from Africa and the Caribbean, we're voyagers. We're ones to always think about where we're going to explore next and where we're going to make our mark. It's just wonderful to hear the stories. And coming to America, of course, it's coming for the big dream, right? But that always doesn't start out that way. And once you're here in America, particularly New York City, I don't know, there's this preconceived notions that you got it. And while it may be true if you work towards it, it doesn't always necessarily mean that when you first get here, things are easy. It just doesn't work that way. We have to work our way up, prove ourselves. And in celebration of Women's History Month, I'm just fortunate to have my gal friends, if you will, grace the stage and really talk about their journey, the trajectory, any pitfalls that they've experienced, and really strategize and think about solutions or, figure out what our next steps are going to be. And today, believe it or not, I have my longtime friend, Zola, who, oh my gosh, and when she said yes, I was just amazed that she agreed to come on here because if you know Zola, she is not the extrovert. She's very much to herself, mind her business. She's like Patrice, drink her water and mind her business, and drink her water she does because her skin glows. But today she is here with me on Goal Intentions. Welcome my longtime friend, Zola. Hi, Zola.
Morning. Hey,
Good morning, darling. How are you?
I am good. And you?
I'm good. I'm good. Here we are now, virtually.
Virtually. Yeah. We always bumped into each other or touch base behind the
Exactly.
scenes.
Exactly. And you have just been a number one support. Again, this is another prime example of what we have in common is having to go to high school together. And again, we weren't the best of friends in high school, meaning that we weren't enemies either, but we just crossed paths.
Yes.
We had our different paths, right? But as we grew as adults, it just, I don't know, our friendship just blossomed into something that I truly appreciate. It's
Yes. I tell you long time. I respect you. My spirit take you.
yes. The same here. When you tell me that all the time, I'm tickled because, your spirit, and that's how you operate. The spirit has to really, be in alignment with who you are. And I've always appreciated that about you. But, let's talk about how we met. Of course, it's high school.
School.
And, we again cross paths often, but I often wanted to know what it is that really kept you going throughout high school. And because I knew you recently traveled to New York on or about, so it
Yes.
was a new environment for you. Talk us through your journey. How did you manage to really live through that experience?
Okay, so my dad was here and he has four of us. He sent for us. Three got through, and then I got to come up the year after. On the day going to the airport with my mom and my stepdad. A family friend happened to be on the bus with us. The bus crashed. My mother broke one leg in two places and the other one was fractured. So my family friend took me to the airport. Yes. Took me to the airport and I was like, yes, I'm going to foreign. Because back then in Jamaica, reading about Jaja Gabor and those were the stars in that time. And I was like, I'm going to foreign. I don't have to wash clothes. I could just take it off and throw it in the garbage.
Mm,
That's what it says in the magazines. Because back home, I was the eldest of five. So
mhm,
I was second mommy.
mhm,
Thumbs up. So I was like, ooh, I'm coming here. I'm the youngest for daddy. Freedom. Lies they tell you.
mm, mm, mm. Lies for real.
Lies they tell you. I came on, I think it was a Friday night. I'm from the countryside in Jamaica. I get to JFK. Oh, it's Christmas. All the lights are on. Oh, lights, 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 lights. I am in paradise.
Mhm.
I got there. I've met my father several times before I came here. So I was familiar with him, but didn't grow with him.
Mhm, mhm.
I got here. The Saturday morning, I woke up and I look out the window. I moved to East 38 and Church Avenue. All I saw was concrete buildings.
Mhm.
I was on the fourth floor looking down saying, am I in a hospital? Because the
Mhm.
only building I've ever been in that was so big was a hospital.
Right.
And there were no lights because it was daytime. All
Mhm.
the lights are gone. I ended up in Wingate. My siblings were going to boys and girls, but I came to October. Wingate was the zone school,
Mm.
15 minutes away from the house. So that's how I ended up in Wingate.
Wow. You know, your exact experience of flying over New York City and seeing all the lights at night, because I also came in at night and looking at all the lights, it's amazing to watch. But when the lights go on, that's a whole other reality. I was amazed. And then I came and it's like, what? What's going on? Where did all the lights go?
Exactly. The, my first time going to Prospect Park,
Oh,
I came back with a stiff neck
girl,
because I was like, not one fruit to pick.
nothing.
What?
And Prospect Park back then, I have really traumatic experiences from Prospect Park because first of all, it was not as diverse as it is now.
Yeah.
It was not even built up the way how it is now. It was very desolate. The pond was a main attraction, but and people used to go for their picnics, particularly around like Memorial or Fourth of July or any of those extended holiday weekends. I vividly remember going there for Memorial weekend when I was a teenager, and shots just rang off. And I knew all I remember is being on my belly
Yeah.
because it was hot.
Yeah, back then they were like pulling out bodies like once a month or every couple of months they'll go, oh, a body was taken.
It was no fun,
No,
no fun. Like
no.
people are appreciating the best, of Prospect Park right now because that's not what it was in the 90s. I came to in 1993.
But
So it's like,
that
look,
was
that was
the
the
year
year.
of migration.
Yes, that was definitely the year for migration. Uh, so your journey through Wingate, how was that experience for you?
In Wingate, I was okay. I made friends, but I did not participate in any after school activity because it was once the bell rang and school was over, I was home in 20 minutes.
Mm,
It was straight home.
mm-hmm,
I had stuff to do.
mm-hmm,
And now everything was going well in high school until the 11th grade. In the
oh,
11th, yes. Back then, your parents didn't talk. It's like you do what you're supposed to do, and they do what they're supposed to do, or they pretend to do what they're supposed to do. But true story. One day I came to school, and I remember it was close to SAT times.
mm-hmm.
And when I went home, a bed was missing from my bedroom, and my dad was gone. No one said anything to us. He was just gone. So that threw me for a loop because
Mm-hmm.
now he's gone. He didn't say where he's going, but I
Mm-hmm.
know he's not coming back. And I'm left with my stepmom.
Wow.
I'm not her responsibility. But yeah,
So where did your dad go?
apparently they're separated and he just moved out.
What?
He just moved out.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is traumatic in itself.
Traumatic is, at the time, it was just like, well, what now? So I vividly remember that it was around SAT times because I remember I showed up to take the SATs. I took it, but I didn't took it. I wrote on the paper, but everything in my mind just went.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I stayed in school despite some difficulty behind the scenes. I graduated. I did not attend graduation.
Same.
I
Yeah.
didn't attend graduation. I and I was like, okay. After the last year in senior year, I got like a babysitting job after, because by then things were like really not going well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to go, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm 18. Where am I gonna go?
Right.
I know no one. You're my family.
Right. That's a really tough experience to even endure because at 18, you're just figuring things out. You're in school, you're trying to make it better for yourself because that's the mission that you were on. When your mother decided to send you a foreign,
Yeah,
it was to really make sure, look, what you're not able to get into Jamaica right now, I'm sending you to New York with your father to get what you need.
which was an education because in Jamaica I started high school, but with four other kids, and high school fees weren't cheap. They still aren't cheap.
Right.
So
Right.
she was like, okay, go. You could go to school there. And that was it. So I was like, my mission, despite everything, was like, I've got to finish high school.
Yeah.
And I graduated with merit. I didn't attend graduation. I went in, I picked up my diploma, and I was like, okay, cool. So then
My,
I found my dad because I wanted to go to college.
mhm.
I think I'm gonna go to college. I think in the yearbook, my statement is I'm gonna do business administration.
Mhm.
And I show up to the man, and the man goes, well, you're finished with high school. I don't know why you need to go to college because I started working at 14.
Wow.
Yes. So I was like, okay. Back then, when you try to go, they tell you I went to court because I try to get myself emancipated. But back then, I was into coloring my own hair and doing my. I had like 10 piercings in my ear. So when I get there, the judge look at me and he's like, "Get out of my court." Because
What?
yes, it was like, "Get out of my court," because they look at me. I've got piercings. I've got colored hair, and they're like, "Oh, she's a bad child."
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Because it was a point where my dad was, I would see my dad and he'll tell my siblings, every time I see your sister, she have a different ear color. Because
The
I was,
prejudices that occurred with that, because yes, you have piercings, yes, you have colored hair, but that doesn't dictate, how you are as a person. That was your expression. And it's interesting that you mentioned, because I know you to be a very, quiet person. But clearly in your personality, you're loud, because you're being seen through your hair and your piercings and your makeup or whatever the case may be, but not through your voice. So I find that rather odd that that judge would even do or say that to you without allowing you to share your story so that you can move on with your life.
so I did babysitting, and then by the March after graduation, I started selling. No, before, after graduation, I did babysitting. Then I was selling Kirby vacuum. Well, I wasn't selling Kirby vacuum. I was showing Kirby vacuum because I was not good at trying to convince people to pay $1,500 for the fifth generation. So I did 3 months and I sold one. And the only reason the lady bought it was because she was like a neighbor from in Jamaica, or she used to visit the neighbor in Jamaica. And she goes, "Oh, I remember your mother." I don't know if she returned it because by then I got my $300 commission and I was like, that's enough of that.
I remember the Kirby vacuum. I actually had someone wanting me to join that squad and go
Oh,
door to door and selling the doggone Kirby
it, wa-
vacuum.
yeah, it was not fun because you go and you knock on old people doors, or they call when they. I remember going on this. They call it a demonstration back then because you go in and you demonstrate the.
Yeah.
And this lady had about 50 cats. When I tell you, I vacuumed cat hair for like 2 hours in that lady apartment, only for her to say, "Good job, okay, bye bye." So no, I was not a good salesperson. After a while, it's just like, no, enough of that.
That is a cute story, because clearly that woman knew how to work around in making sure that she got a cleaning service. That was really cute. So after you sold Kirby vacuums, what did you end up doing?
I ended up applying for a summer youth job
Mm,
and I got it, and I started working at a daycare on Empire across
mhm.
from the public library. And after summer youth was over, they kept me. I was like, "Oh, big money, $5.15 an hour." I was balling. I had chick nor child. I was like, and then it was like, okay, I need more money. So I took a part-time job
Mhm,
working at Burger King. So I
mhm,
do the daycare, leave the daycare, go to Fulton Street at the Burger King.
mhm.
Funny story with this thing at Burger King. I'm like 20. I'm going to Burger King. The manager, I had like an evening shift, but not a closing shift. I
Mhm.
show up for my job and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to need you to go home and come back so you could close up with me." When I tell you, goosebump took over my whole body. A chill went down my spine. This was after like 3 months of doing this part time with these people. I took off the uniform, I folded up, and I left it on the counter. Cause once he said, "I'm gonna need you to go home and come back so you could close up," something in me went
Mhm.
ding 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 ding. I didn't even. It was like no hesitation. I was like, okay, took it off, folded
Mhm.
up, put it. I was like, peace.
Mhm.
So
And that was very typical back then, particularly if there were male managers in
Yeah.
a lot of establishment, not just in fast food, in a
Mhm.
lot of establishments. Sexual harassment was something that was just second nature. And interestingly, I would think around that time, because I know for me, while subtly being sexually harassed by male coworkers, there was still this thing where I was always in control. So if you come pass some nonsense to me, I was quick to tell you about yourself or come up with some snide comment in return with what you're saying, right? Because my grandmother always used to tell me, look, if any man come telling you anything, just tell them, yeah, you're looking at jailbait. Like, what's your name? Jailbait. That's what you are. So she always, enforced in me that, look, you're not going to allow any man to manipulate you and trick you into any type of obscene situation. And I do remember where sexual harassment trainings came to the forefront as a result of a lot of women being sexually harassed, and only a handful would actually come out and say that they were actually harassed, because there was this thing about power. They didn't want to lose their job. They didn't want to create any conflict. There was just this hesitancy and fear that if they reported that the boss said something off cuff, that they were going to be reprimanded in some way. And it's just sad that you're working trying to make ends meet, and yet this person thinks it's okay to try to take advantage of you.
Yeah. So, so after that, after I quit that job, I stayed with the daycare. And I was like, oh, things were going well. Well, one day, or one week, the lady forgot to put in my payroll.
Ooh.
Yes. So there's this 2 week period of me not having any money and living out my kind jars and eating whatever they served at the daycare
Mm,
for lunch.
mm,
And from that point on, I was like, no, you have to have money in the reserve. Because when you're young and making money, you're just shopping and eating out and going places. Like, there's no thinking of, oh, what about tomorrow? What about next week? It's like,
right,
I'll just always have money, or
right,
I'll get paid next week, or I'll.
right.
So, yeah. And then I was doing that. And for my 21st birthday, I got Miss Kayan. I call her my 21st birthday present. Like,
It's
everybody,
illegal by then. They say illegal.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, everybody gets drunk. What do I get? I get you a baby. And it was like, ooh. So I found out in the November, my birthday is September. By November, I find out I'm pregnant. So I was like,
Mm,
ooh, $5.15 is not going to cut it.
mm-mm,
So I had a friend working in St. Mary's Hospital with the SCOPY service.
mhm.
She was like, well, they'll pay you $7.50. Well, I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah, because at the time minimum wage was 5.15.
Yes,
Mhm.
minimum wage was $5.15.
Yeah, I remember.
Yep. So I took it and I was there, and it's like I was there for 5 months before the staff realized I was pregnant, or a particular staff member.
Mm, mm.
Because I was like, I was tiny. It was like, but yeah, I took that job, and then I had the baby, Miss Kayan, and I kept working with them. I got a $2 raise, and I was on top of the world,
Mhm.
going smoothly. And then it was like in 2003, early 2002, three, they start talking about closing St. Mary's. That's when
Yes,
they started like shutting down a lot of the hospitals in Brooklyn.
right.
So from St. Mary's, I went to, oh, last week, I didn't watch live. I watched Monday, and I heard you and Carrie talking about being paper workers. I am a paper worker. I am a proud paper worker. I've been pushing paper for 21 years.
I still push paper.
I legitimately push paper all
Mhm.
day, every day.
Yep, yep.
So I ended up,
'Cause I know, like, you also, like, you transition to in your life, because like I'm hearing that you wherever it is that you got an opportunity, you controlled your path. You're like, look, each step of the way, I have this traumatic experience that happened to me, and I need to find the next best thing so I could survive. Because realistically, I don't think people understand, particularly as women, men too, but women have, have this added pressure to really survive and lean on someone to get through in order to survive. And it just makes me wonder, why is it that we're always having to want to be in control or have to dictate, that level of control in order to move or excel, ascend, in a direction that would allow for us to really feel comfortable. you know um, it just seems a little disheartening to me that we always have to push a little extra in order to make it right.
Yes.
And then here, listening to your story is like, oh my gosh, because I've not heard it before. So this is really intriguing to me. And then when you see people, again, you cannot judge the book by its cover, because there's so many layers of hurt and pain and trauma that occurs, and you wonder, oh my gosh, when you see someone, you can't really take their first at face value, because you don't know what it is that there's what's chapter they're in, first of all, and what those previous chapters actually include. It's I'm touched. So I know you dabbled in hair care and stuff like that. Beauty was your thing,
Yes.
because clearly you started off at 18 with your hair color. How did you manage to transform that into a career for yourself?
So while I was at St. Mary's, I was like, I was doing hair non-professionally.
Hmm.
And then I asked my job at the time, I was like, can I cut to part-time and I'll just go to beauty school and get a license? So here I was with a 2-year-old, a full-time job at the time, and I was leaving work to go to school all the way over in Bay Ridge. Back then it was called Libs Beauty School. So one of few people of color in the class at that time.
Hmm.
So I took the part-time to go to school, and I thought, oh, I just go in and play with Dollyhead and they'll be like, oh, you're certified. No, I get there and I get this big thick book, and it's all biology and chemistry. And I'm like, Tricka, who? Pariah, who? Tinia, who?
Right,
So
right.
then, and I finished it out. I got my license and I started working in this hair salon. Still working part-time in the hospital, leaving the hospital. I managed the day because Monday's like a slow day in the hair salon. So Monday I work full time. When by Wednesday I'm working half a day. I'm coming home 12 a.m. in the morning. So by now I'm generating clientele. I'm like, yes, this is it. The money is good. But then it started getting to the point where I did not have health insurance through my job.
Mm,
Or I had, but only for myself because it was so expensive.
mhm.
And then I was like, ooh, if I go into here full time, I'm going to need to find insurance help elsewhere. To get anything from the city, you have to make $0 or you have to have connection.
Right.
At that time, I don't have no connection. I don't know nothing about that. So I was like, no. I transitioned back to full time in the medical health information management. And then I got into the union.
Oh, damn.
Yes. I hit the jackpot. I got it 11.99.
Yep.
But at the same time, I was like, I don't know. I want more active work. So I applied to the MTA
Hmm.
and I passed the conductor exam. And back then they was like, oh, you're on the waiting list. But by the time they got around to me, I was already one year into the 11.99. The pay difference was minor. I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm already in the union. But
Hmm.
now I'm like, But I don't know if it would have panned out because like a couple years later, they had like a massive layoff.
Right.
But I'm like, ooh, I would have did 20 with MTA.
Mm.
20 and out, I think that's it. You do your 20 years and you could leave.
Right.
But I enjoy what I do. It's stability. Before I was just like, oh, I go in my office and I'm just there pushing paper, but I'm contributing to society.
So what exactly do you do now
Okay,
in the
so
hospital system?
now I process requests for records
Hmm.
for the courts, for the government audits. Like right now, we're having a big COVID audit. And that's what we're doing for right now.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, but say you want your medical records and you send for it, I'm I'm the one that releases it. I read your request, see if it's appropriate, and I release it. It's federally governed, so I have to follow all the new laws, HIPAA and high tech, because it has evolved. Before
Hmm.
it was physical paper, now it's electronic.
Right. And
So
is there training that you had to do to really like understand all these different programming? Because there could be a learning curve between the manual way. Because I remember, in my previous paper pushing days, it was all Scantron or carbon copy. So it's like you always had to have these layers and layers and layers of paper in order, for things to get processed. Now it's electronic. So how cumbersome is actually having to go through training and transitioning from one way to the next since you've been there so long?
so every year we have to do certifications. So because they changed the laws, they changed the rules, the Privacy Act, all of that. So before it was just like, oh, you just knew had to know HIPAA. No, you can't discuss people thing. You can't go look up your neighbor records. You can't print out other people's stuff to show your friend and talk about with your friend. You have access to their home address, social security, sometimes credit cards.
Right, right,
I
right.
had this one patient paid for his surgery with his black card. I didn't even know you could get a credit card limit of $1 million, but he paid $500,000 on his credit card.
Look at
So
that.
yes, but yeah, it's like each time they bring in a new program, it's like at first you're like, no, I want to do it the old way. But as everything is being more technological now, it's like you have to go with the flow and go with what the government is asking. Because now, before, say I wanted my medical records, I would have to go to the facility to get it. Now you can stay in your home, type up your request, and send it electronic. You don't have to leave your house. They
Right,
send it to your email.
right, right. It sounds like you work on a large system, and I'm curious to find out, how do you bring passion? Because dealing with paper all day could definitely be a drag, in all honesty. Because sometimes I get frustrated just to look at my email. It's like I literally have to say, like, meditate before I open up my work email because I don't know what's going to be in my inbox for another thing that I need to address. And I'm wondering, how do you bring passion to your work, and while not moving into a direction where you're feeling burnout? Because I do understand mentally you can become foggy from processing tons and tons of documentation. So how do you continue to bring passion to your work?
So on a when you first get the job, they tell you do not read the whole records. Do not go down the rabbit hole.
Hmm.
With for me, with the cases, especially the ACS cases, I have two children.
Hmm.
When you see the depravity
Hmm.
of some of these caretakers,
Hmm. Hmm.
so I get a subpoena and it's asking for this baby record. And I'm like, how could someone do this to a baby? So now my job is like, okay, I'm going to process this and send it straight over so this baby can get out of this situation
Hmm.
or this wife can get out of that situation.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's what it comes down to. Is that because before I was like, do I like what I do? Am I passionate about it? But then I'm like, when the director for the whole hospital system comes down and go, good job on that audit, Zola. You got us there in time. I'm like, I'm making a difference.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because if they don't turn over the records in 30 days is that's what the government gives you, 30
Mhm.
days. So you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of records. You have people with similar names, same date of birth. You have to go through, make sure you're getting the correct person because there's some last name are just familiar, some first name, and then there's similarity. Sometimes there can be a misspelling or off by a digit. That's a breach.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
heavily. They have a three strike rule. I've been doing the same thing for 20 something years. So
Right. Right. And
you
then, like, what do you do to not get burned out? Because you're saying that you have to go through files literally with a fine tooth comb. I'm using this analogy because of your beauty experience too, but literally with a fine tooth comb. How do you avoid becoming burnout? Because I could see where your passion is in making sure that, hey, you want to see the quality of life of the person that you're working with based on file is in a good place. But then how do you create that sense of solace for yourself, or that peace, or that breakthrough where you're feeling, okay, I'm not gonna fall into the rigors of the work.
self care. That's what self care. And when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I leave work, I try not to take it home with me. I'm not saying some cases doesn't come home with you, or sometimes I come home and I hug my kids a little longer, or I'm like I go and I stand in the doorway and I'm looking at them and I'm like, so it's you have to balance it out.
Mhm.
I do my own thing on outside of work. I try not to take it home.
Yeah, that's one of the hardest things. I remember working in a teen shelter, and the as you mentioned, the level of care that the teenagers had at the time, it was just one that I would literally go home and hug my daughter at the time, Carmelisha, and just squeeze her and promise her that I would never forsake her in any way, because I've often found that in having to do psychosocial assessments, you know I've had teenagers that come in my path, and they've used every drug that you could possibly think of. And oftentimes I'd even look out the window of the floor, where I worked at the time, and see the pimp waiting, for the resident to go and do their work, and it was just so disheartening for me, to have to listen to this teenager, pour their heart out about their experiences, about their parents being neglectful, or, even having them, be prostitutes, so that they can have the family survive. And then to still have them try to get them to a place where they're doing better for themselves and get them on a path to then look out the window and see the very thing that you're trying to help them out of is waiting for them so that they can go to work. It's just tough.
And yeah,
It's tough.
so that you have to have a strong constitution to do certain work.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yes, I applaud social workers. I applaud the hands-on people, teachers, educators, because like you said, it's like behind the scenes, and we're quick to label, but we don't know the backstory.
Right.
So I try to teach my girls like, you don't know what's going on. People put the best face forward all the time.
Mhm.
Sometimes we do it with tears in our eyes.
Right. 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 So I wonder, what's the one thing that you never pursued and you regret, if you wanted to?
Two, I feel like I still do hair, but I feel like I should have continued with it on a broader scale.
Hmm.
That's number one. Number two is buying the house when I was 25.
Mm.
That has
So what are you doing that you think would allow for you to go ahead and pursue that? Would you shift the way how things are so that you can really fulfill that passion, or are you just going to say, well, you know what, it's a thing of the past?
actually lately, as you know, Kay is about to graduate in May. So she's been we've been having discussion because we're about to go into a different chapter of our lives.
Hmm.
We're going beyond our current circumstances.
Right.
So home ownership is on the horizon. Hit a bump in the road because
Always.
yes, and it's good. It's a good thing now that I think about it.
Hmm.
So I'm waiting on certain things to be finalized.
All right.
Yes. So once that is done, because I'm not asking for anything, I just want my peace.
Right. Right.
So yeah, and then I was like, I've always had this vision of setting up a salon in my basement. So
Hmm.
I've been brainstorming with my friend, and she was like, "Yes, all you need is one chair. Put a chair down there and do it on your own time." So yeah,
I think that'll be a perfect plan where you can accomplish the two things that you really, really wanted. Particularly today. Back then, it was a little difficult because, like, you worked in the salon and you had to build your clientele. You might still have to do that, or your old clients will be so happy that you are coming back into the space that they'll say, "Yes, finally, you're back."
yeah.
Right. And then you could just have appointments. And with social media these days, you can do so much, so
Oh,
much with just getting the word out about what you're doing. And, as long as it's a nice, inviting, and peaceful space,
yeah.
for people
Oh,
to feel welcome.
listen. We need soft places to land.
Yes,
Our home
yes,
is supposed to be the soft place to land.
yes, yes, yes.
When you go out into the world, especially New York City, it was like that pre-pandemic, but post-pandemic, or we're still in the pandemic.
Right.
It's a different. It's like so. Yeah, yeah. When I come to your home, I've been to your home a couple of times.
Yes.
It's peaceful. You feel energy. You pick up on stuff.
Hmm.
There are places I go, and like you say, you'll see me, and I'm like in the corner because I'm like, this is not my vibe.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm not afraid to say, Shannon word is, she's like, I'm not a fan. That's it.
Right.
If it's someone or something that she doesn't want to do, she does not mince words. She was like, I'm not a fan of so and so. And I honor her wishes.
Yes, 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 yes. You have to pay attention to their cues because they see things that you don't, and sometimes even far in advance. Oftentimes we discredit the abilities of children to really understand what's going on in their world when they're really in tune.
Yeah,
So you might think this child is quiet or shy when they're really observant.
yeah.
They're really trying to figure out exactly what's going on and if they feel safe in that space. So actually, by you saying that you've been to my home a couple of times is an honor because you've been to my home a couple of times and with your daughter, and it's always been so good. Always fun to have you all. And I try to make sure that the energy just has to be right. Whether it's my home or even outside being with people, it just has to be, eh, you know, high vibrational. And even if it's low vibrational, there has to be some level of peace within. I think that's the only way we can really carry through in a positive way. So I've also learned and seen myself evolve as a person based on what I want to take in. I created a lot of boundaries for myself because I there are just certain things that I get too sensitive about. So I realize, okay, this is my limit, and we're not going to go there.
Oh, because what might work for you won't necessarily work for me.
Yes.
And a lot of people, they don't look at it that way. It's like, oh, if you can have it or if you can do it, I want it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then you get it and you're dying because this is not it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
we all have our paths to walk. We have,
Mm-hmm.
I, not everybody is gonna, the only person you're gonna do this journey with all the way through is yourself.
Yep. 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 Exactly. And it really speaks to the circle of friends that you have as well, because you always want to be in a position where girl guy friends, however the construct is, that the people that are in your circle are the ones who's going to really cheer you on. It'll be more of a collaborative approach over a competition. And I think with all of our little pockets of friends, I realized that competition ain't a thing. And if you want to go there, please, again, that's where the boundary sets up. It's like we're not there today, and we won't be there for a very long time.
For for me, when my 17-year relationship came to an abrupt halt, there were certain people that I reached out to and I was like, hey, listen, we're gonna need emotional support.
Hmm.
I wasn't worried about money. Not in
Hmm.
the sense that, oh my God. And I have family, close family members. And they were like, no, fight, fight. Keep your family together, fight. And I'm like, what exactly do you think I'm fighting for? I'm supposed to fight for. If a person doesn't want what you want, it's okay for them to change their mind.
Right.
Whatever decision you made in the past, if they along the path they're like, this is not what I want, or this is not the route that I feel to go, I just say respectfully, do it in a decent way and be
Mhm.
like, well, hey, this ain't working out. Don't go create drama.
Right.
I don't do well with drama. So I let people fall where they wanted to fall.
Right.
Said what I wanted to say, and I was like, and like you said, circle of friends. I have my good girlfriends. I had people go, oh, do you need a place to stay? You can come in my living room. Oh, do you need me to come get you and the girls? Are you guys safe? And we
Mhm.
were never unsafe in large scale of things. It
Right.
was just trust was lost, and I
Yes.
needed peace.
Mm.
And if it works for you, it works for you. They say when you know, you know. When you don't know, you don't know. You can't do do anything about something you don't know about. But then when you know about it, it's up to you. What level of peace do you want for yourself? Not, oh, what are people gonna think about me?
Ah.
It's not that it's not that I don't care what you think about me, but I care more about what I think about me.
Mhm.
What will my girls think about me? What
Mhm.
example am I setting for them?
Mhm.
I had
Exactly.
I had a teenager at the time getting ready for high school. Teenagers love to rebel.
Mhm.
And then it's like at the point I was like, okay, well, I gotta be the full-time parent. They became my sole focus. It was like, okay, kids, this is what happened, this is what's gonna happen, and this is what we're gonna do. Kay will be upset if I told you that I punched her in the arm one time because she came home from school and she was like, well, my friend mom and my friend. I was like, you don't live with them. This is where you live. I'm now in charge. You're gonna follow my rules.
And
Oh,
at times, it's like we're tested on so many levels with our children, because they want to live in a fantasy oftentimes, and the fantasy is that there is this perfect place where your parents are always peach. It's like the Donna Reed show, or looking at any of in my day, watching sitcoms and whatnot. It's like watching Family Matters,
yeah.
or any of those TV shows where they depict this perfect marriage, this perfect, you know um place where children and their parents have all these grandiose things, and and if there's problems, there's always like a way to solve it. It's not reality. That's the fantasy that a lot of these TV shows in the past managed to create, this false sense of hope for children. And so when reality hits and there's a separation or some sort of wrinkle that allows, that abrupts the family dynamic in a major way, it's like everything crumbles. And it's just best that you manage expectations very well. I'm not going to say that my marriage is perfect. I mean, I've been married for a long time. I've been with I mean, I've been with my husband for, oh God. Has it oh my God. It's been like it's gonna be 20 years. Oh my goodness. Yeah, 20 years with my husband. Has it always been great? Absolutely not. Is it great now? Probably not. But it's like managing expectations all throughout. I mean, yes, I can post a picture and people will say, "Oh my gosh, couple goals." Oh, do you really want
Do
these?
you hear me? I say that all the time because they're like, oh, I was like, there's hard work in the background, and it takes two people.
Mhm. And I'm
It,
not gonna always put the blame on him because God knows I have my part to play in it. But in all honesty, there are things that it's like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? Particularly after 20 years, you would think, hey, we're stable, we can just coast. But it seems as
no,
if you're dealing with a whole new relationship.
because because we evolved.
Yes,
Our
yes, yes,
appetite change.
yes, 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 yes,
It's
yes.
like it's like what's next?
Hmm.
What do you want next? And it also comes back to the type of people you're associating yourself with.
Right, right,
Because if the people you're around, you don't see any stable relationships, you don't see anybody working together to accomplish anything, then when you're doing it, you're the odd man out. And it's like, oh, like it's too
exactly.
much. Like you're being extra.
Yeah,
Why do you
right,
want that?
right, right.
Because I do. I want my own home. I
Yes.
want my children, they've always had extracurricular activities that I pay for because that's what interests them.
Right,
It's like, oh, why do you have to do that? But why not?
right,
You have to give the kids something to stimulate them.
right.
Like you said, I I'm an introvert. I'm calm and quiet, but I like going out.
Yeah.
Like there's certain things that music excite me. Life concerts bring me joy.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when my relationship started to fail or when it just failed, it was like, what did you do, Zola? Because I'm always though I'm going to parties, I'm going to stuff, I'm always hanging out with people. I'm always so it's like, oh, it gotta be you. You did something. I take responsibility for what I did. And no, I did not do that. For what I did, and I didn't do.
Right. Yeah.
Wasn't perfect because I like things my way, and I'm like, okay. So I had a whole plan. So when that plan fell apart, it's like, okay, now I got to make sure my kids are good. Because
Right.
at one point, I was like, I cannot wear prison panties because you go into denial and you go, no way.
Mhm.
Then
Mhm.
you gotta grieve.
Right. And go through those stages of grief.
You have to grieve, and it's like so now there are people that don't understand me. They're like, what is she doing? I'm doing what's best for me and my children.
Indeed.
I had to put us first. I'm not good at pretending.
Right.
My face tell the whole story without me opening my mouth because I'm like, mm-mm.
Mhm.
Not on my watch.
Right.
You're not gonna play me for a fool and I'm just gonna be like, oh, but I have a husband. No, I wanted peace.
Yeah. And that's that is very interesting that you say that because that is the cover that people want, to paint perfect pictures. And again, It ain't always rosy. I ain't gonna I'm not gonna lie. It ain't a rosy path. I mean, rose patches are beautiful, but when you have to pick them and go through those thorns, those are the things that really get you because it strikes your heart and you wonder, what are you doing here? I mean, it's so beautiful and you're just trying to pick something beautiful, and here you are being hurt by the very beautiful thing that exists. So, you create whatever works best for you. And you're right. For the sake of just saying that I'm married or I have a wife or a husband, it doesn't make sense. If you're not fully at peace, it's best to release. In all honesty.
Exactly. And it's a lot of like self-reflection. I'm
Yeah.
big on affirmations. I'm
Yes.
I'm big on reading self-help books. And I'm like, okay. And I look I look outside of my circle or sometime within my circle and I was like, well, I don't want that. Or that seemed nice, but hmm,
Mm-hmm.
hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You start to question things a bit more, particularly after going through experiences.
So I've been like sitting single by choice. There's always offers. There's always someone
That's always
willing
an offer.
to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not interested. I've never lived my life like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the path for me. But
I,
I
I truly appreciate how you even control the whole narrative around that, controlling your path, because it just makes sense that whatever you do, you have to be wholeheartedly at peace.
exactly. So now I'm like, maybe I'll dip my foot in the dating pool after 20 odd years. But somebody said P is in the dating pool, so I don't know.
Did
Maybe
you?
I'll just go to the beach instead.
I think you should go to the beach. Don't go to too much chlorine masking the pee in the pool.
Yeah.
That was cute. So I'm wondering, as we, that was really cute. As we wrap up, I'm wondering, what would you advise your younger self, and your daughters as they think about, the phases of life? What as you reflect, and you've done a lot of
Oh
reflection,
my God. Yes. I think I've done enough reflection. I think it's time for me to start applying some of these things that I've learned into
right?
the world.
Hmm.
Well, my oldest is going to be 22 and getting ready to finish up college. I, th- my advice to her, don't marry your first boyfriend. Live a little. Some people live early on. I'm going to live later on. I'm gonna have like what is it? A midlife, yeah. Re-
Crisis.
what? No, a crisis got me separated and single, but I'm gonna have a midlife. I don't know reinvention. Say Zola point two.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
2.0. Zola 2.0. Yeah, and my youngest one, she's a firecracker. She gives me advice.
Hmm.
She is like, take no prisoner. It is what it is. But my younger self, I did go back to college, but I wish I had done it when I was younger, like when my mind was young and fresh, and my life would have taken a different path. But my I like to comfort myself and say everything is as it should be.
Right.
That was my path, and everything is as it should be. All is well.
Hmm.
Yes, all is well. So
All is well.
yes.
And I believe it, because Zola, every time, my time with you, now remote, but usually in person, it is always well. I can just, be around, moving, and I would just glance at you in the corner, and the biggest grin would be on your face.
Because we have choices. You can either become bitter or you become better.
Mm,
So
mm,
I became a better person for myself, not for
mhm.
anyone, not so and about any what anyone thinks or oh well maybe she should have. No, shoulda, coulda, woulda will get you stuck in a negative place.
Mhm. Mhm.
It will have you downplaying your your self worth, your self esteem. And it's like, oh, but so and so. You don't know. You're seeing the highlight reel. What about the
Mhm,
behind the scenes?
mhm, mhm,
There's a lots of strings and ropes and glue and duct tape and all type of going on back
mhm,
there.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
I tell people, what you see is what you get with me.
mhm.
Because if you tell the truth, you don't gotta remember nothing.
My grandmother always said a liar does not have a memory.
No, they do not.
Okay. And
Because
I operate from that. It's like if you lie to me, trust me. Let the man talk. Because when you let them talk, the truth eventually comes out. So if I feel betrayed based on, some sort of lie that was told, I am one to shut down entirely. Or even if you lie in my face just to, make yourself look better, again, it's just block comes, and sometimes I black out because I wonder why was it all worth it? Especially if I trusted you.
and once trust is broken, that's it. I don't hold anything in my heart. I don't hold you up. I don't. When night come and I get on my bed, I sleep like a baby. I go to bed and leave the kids up because it's my time to sleep and I go to sleep.
Mhm.
Like you said, you broke trust. You proved yourself not trustworthy. That's okay. We don't ever have to talk. You're not going to find me calling your name to somebody, talking behind your back. I'm just done.
Right.
I will hang on for dear life, but once I let go, that's it.
Mhm.
But I say it with my friends. It's we have high quality relationship, low maintenance. You reach out, I'm here. But don't sit and wait for me to call you to tell you what so and so is doing and or did you hear about? My thing, if someone wants you to know something, they'll tell you. It's not your job to go digging up and to
Investigating.
yeah. And a lot of people like to investigate stuff that has nothing to do with them.
Right.
Like, how is that going to make your life better? What
Right.
are you gaining from it?
How fruitful is it for you? Unless you work for the gossip magazine. And if you're being paid, then let's
Exactly.
talk. I'll give you something to talk about.
Something. Oh, yeah, it's funny in the hospital. They all when the celebrities come in, because they do come in. I I work for the Mount Sinai Health System, so it's big. So when they come in, they'll send the whenever I see the email that comes and say how you approach the media and who you represent, I was like, ooh, big name is in the house. It's like ever so often they have to shoot that email to
Right. Keep
be
you
like,
on your
yeah,
toes.
yeah, yeah, like listen, it's not your job to be like, hey, you know who's admitted? Oh, you know what they're doing? I had a coworker that got fired for that
Mm.
when Joan Collins went into her records, did not have an authorization, did
Wow.
not have permission,
Wow.
but thought it was like, oh, let me go see. That's not your job. That's not part of your job.
Right.
They're watching you. They're always watching you.
Oh,
It's the
they
computer.
go with talking.
It's keystrokes. So, like you say, mind your business and drink your water. That's it.
And I told everyone your face is glowing because you do drink your water and mind your business, and it shows.
Listen, when you're dehydrated, your brain becomes foggy and you slip into situations that you have no business in.
That's what you call thirsty.
There you go. There you go. Because that is like, ooh, that looked good. No, no.
Oh my God, Zola. I knew this was going to be sweet. It was just so wonderful having you on Goal Intentions, your insight. And, you never know where things are going to go, where our discussions are going to go in a lot of cases. And I'm really, I'm surprised, but not surprised. But it is like you opened up in such a way that I know there are people out there who will take bits and pieces of the messages that you brought today and will feel as if there's some sort of strength in it. Because just talking about your relationships, your friendships, your work, your story coming from Jamaica to New York and having to navigate a system on your own from a teenager, it almost seems impossible. And you could have gone any other route. Yeah. And I've seen people actually fall apart, as a result of the things that you mentioned today. And I have to say that I'm proud of you. I'm really proud of you
I
for pulling through.
I often tell my mom, because at one point she came here, didn't like it, got the green card, decided this ain't for her, and went back home. But I tell her, I said, the foundation you built for me is what kept me together.
Mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm,
like you said, I could have chose a different route.
mm-hmm.
But you have to stay true to yourself.
Right.
It's not gonna look the same all the time.
Mm-hmm.
As you grow, as you become a parent, you it's different perspective.
Right.
When I was doing hair full time or more actively, the money was great, but I had no stability or security. It was like one week I could make $1,000, the next week it's like $200, and I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
need balance.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to do like, what's your why?
Mm-hmm.
What's your why?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing it?
Right.
And it has to be from a place of in here. It's not a place of what you're trying to project outwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because 80% of people don't care about what's happening with you. But if you put it in your head and be like, oh, what do they think of me? Oh, they're gonna like judge you. And it's like the shame or the guilt
Mm-hmm.
comes in, and there's like, but I'm supposed to. When I turned 40, I was like, I'm supposed to be a homeowner. Why am I not a homeowner? And then I lined up all the ducks in the row. And then I got there and it was like, oh, it still say you're married. And I'm like, his money does not count. We're dealing with my money, my credit, my stuff. But they still want to involve that part of my life. So I was like, oh, I got to get rid of that part. Because then, no, it's true. It's
Right.
like when you've been part of a pair for so long, it's like it's hard for people to see you separately. It's like they always want to lump you in together. Like, no, don't fry me with someone else's fat. Do not fry me with someone else's fat.
Zola, where you getting these things from?
Listen, my grandmothers, I wasn't raised by them, but I was around them as a young kid. And like you say, I'm an observer.
Do not fry me with anyone's facts.
Yes.
Zola.
No, 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 no. No. I had a close relative tell me, right? She's like, no, no, no. You have to stay married. And I'm like, no, I don't have to do anything. It's not in my best interest. Some people get caught up in like, oh, there's no one else. When no one else is like, listen, both my grandmother got remarried after they had 14 kids each. 2 kids ain't gonna stop nothing. And who says I want to be remarried? Like, in the words of Kay, I'm willing to pay for your travels, but you gotta pay for your own expenses. So that's my thing. So it's like, it is what it is. You can't warp reality.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Mhm.
mourned my loss, and I was like, then I was like, whew, I can breathe. I don't gotta do this. I could cook when I wanna cook. I could eat what I wanna eat. I don't have to work on anybody's timeline. That's okay.
And you look okay, girl. You look okay.
I've been aging backwards.
Oh, yes, you are. I love it.
I listen. When you're not, if you see when trust is broken, it's a hell of a thing, you know. Cause you run all these scenarios in your head, even if it's not happening, it's happening in your head. And you can only live like that for so long.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
after a while, your system break down. Either you become addicted to something or you just throw yourself away.
Mhm.
That- We were gym buddies. I joined my first gym 20 years ago. Me and the gym have a love-hate relationship.
Mhm.
A couple years ago, Shannon goes, Mommy, when you go to the gym, you're so nice when you get home. Yes, because I'm tired. I don't gotta yell at you to clean up your room because I don't care if you didn't clean up your room. I'm just gonna shower, eat, and go to sleep.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Life is good.
yeah, yes, life is good.
Life is good.
Life
I'm so delighted. I mean, this message is for the women out there who are trying to control their path and don't know how to find a way. This message is for it's for the women who are experiencing, uncertainties about their relationship. This message is for the women who are looking to transition in their lives and haven't found that way yet, or don't know how to move. This message is a living testimony of a person who knew that things were going to be perfect and at times probably thought it was going to be forever. And, speaking from experience, everything that glitters aren't always gold. So it's up to you to choose your path and make sure that whatever it is that you do for your life, it is one that really heals and soothes from within.
yes.
Zola, I am so happy that you agreed to come on Goal Intentions. I heard you, I see you, and I'm really happy that we are connected. And
Yes.
for everyone out there who tuned into Goal Intentions, thank you so much for your ongoing support. Have a wonderful and purpose filled afternoon.
Blessings, everyone. Blessings.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Bye bye.